Hello everyone, my name is Ross. Welcome back to another GeoGuessr video, and today I have a very exciting one that I've been planning for a little while now. I have my first guest on the channel. Today we are joined by Daiiono, who is not only a fantastic GeoGuessr YouTuber, and I highly recommend checking out his channel, it'll be linked in the title and in the description, but also one of the best players in the world, currently at 155th in the world, right up there amongst the best players in the US as well. And today, Daiiono is going to be coaching us, hopefully telling me where I've gone wrong, giving us some little tips as well, and I'm hoping you get some value from it as well. So, welcome to the channel, Dai.
Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be on Ross's channel here, and yeah, hoping to get some good GeoGuessr coaching in. This is the first time I've done something like this, so hopefully it goes well.
Yeah, I'm excited for it today. So yeah, if you want to see this in the future, obviously make sure to smash the like button, make sure to drop a comment, and as I said, make sure to check out Dai. So what we're going to be doing today is playing some no move. I've just created a challenge link which I've sent to Dai, so he's going to have the opportunity to look around himself. What I'm going to do is kind of talk through the more basic stuff. I'll be saying we're in the Northern Hemisphere, stuff that the pros don't really look at. Going through that, I'll plonk down a guess on the map, but before hitting guess, we'll then go over to Dai. He can give us some little tips as to how we could have improved. Maybe, you never know, we might get one so close that Dai's just like, I've got nothing to say, but we'll find out. And yeah, I did say to Dai off camera, I've played 4 games today and I've lost all 4 of them. So maybe it's just one of those days for me. So let's start the game. And right off the bat, I guess looks cold would be the first thing I can point to here. We'll have a spin around. I would say in a duel, this is like my worst nightmare. It's one of those where there's no road lines. I'm having to fully vibe vegetation. I've got no signs. Hemisphere would be, I guess, you'd expect northern. You know, never rule out a far south. Yeah. So let me talk through what I'm thinking. So again, cold. This kind of gravel path, I'm thinking if it is to be in Europe, maybe more of a Finland, Estonia kind of vibe. So I'd be thinking that it's possibly around this area. And then I'd also be thinking, God damn, I don't want to get that 50-50 wrong with Canada and US. We also know we've got ocean northeast, or at least a large lake. I suppose, again, if it's out in Canada, it could be a large lake. So I'm thinking I would either send in a duel kind of here, which is a horrible 50-50, or here. Now, something which I really would love to improve is my ability to identify like vegetation with the trees, whether it's a pine or larch. So I'd love some help with that in a second. So what would I do? I think given the... this is one where I'd just hope to be pressed by my opponent and just send one. I'm going to probably send... I'm going to go sort of between Estonia and Finland, but yeah, I would not be surprised. So I would probably guess in a duel, something like that. So over to you, Dino.
All right. So the first thing I noticed about this location is, as you mentioned, the cold climate. And yeah, you would be correct in assuming that this is the Northern Hemisphere because the sun does look to be pretty far south, kind of peeking through the clouds to the south there. So correctly identified the Northern Hemisphere. The thing that kind of solves Europe versus like Americas, for example, in this case, would be to take a quick look at the car. In most cases in Europe, in Generation 3 camera, where you kind of have this non-vibrant color scheme, but it's not like a huge halo around the top. So it's kind of that middling in between generation. You won't get antenna on most of the Generation 3 America's locations, whereas in Europe, you'll get a lot of antenna in countries like the Nordics especially. So stuff like Sweden or Finland or Estonia that you mentioned, it should always have antenna on the back of the car. So that would kind of rule that out for me, and I think I'm leaning more towards Americas on this one because of it. And then the other thing that you can use, once you narrow down that we're in the Americas on that, we do have a good trick in Generation 3 to tell between Americas and Canada. So if you look at the front of the car on either side, so we're driving right in this case, so you'd be looking towards the front here.
Yep.
You can see 2 bumps kind of with the outline of the car, if that makes sense. Let me know if you can notice that there.
I find it very difficult because of the gravel, but I'm sure if it was like a more plain road, it'd be like...
Yeah. So like in the US, you would typically get one like more defined bump on the car, and where in Canada you would get the 2 bumps, like where the wing mirrors would be on the car, basically.
Makes sense.
So with 2 bumps here, that this should be Canada, and we do have the 2 bumps on the car here, and with the maybe ocean north here, I would say it looks kind of big to be a lake, although it's certainly a possibility, as you mentioned. would probably be looking up towards maybe the Gaspe Peninsula, which is like eastern Quebec, maybe, and looking out into that big ocean, like at the mouth of the St. Lawrence River or something like that. Um,
Okay.
or maybe even somewhere in Newfoundland, like which is that island off the northeast coast
Yeah, I think you
there.
get those like
So
Christmas tree looking trees. Is that right in
yeah,
Newfoundland?
yeah. The Christmas trees here, you get a lot of these there, and also like pretty sparsely in Nova Scotia and on that Gaspe Peninsula in Quebec, as I mentioned. So I think
Okay.
either of those are pretty valid guesses. I think maybe with the Christmas trees, maybe we do lean a bit more towards Newfie, but I could see Gaspe as well. So
So one follow-up question from that
yes,
is, I guess Generation 1 and Generation 2 are very easy to spot. I find it extremely difficult, Generation 3 versus 4. Is it just purely vibrancy of colors? Is there anything else that can separate the two? Because I'm really, like, I look at this now and I go, yeah, it's not particularly vibrant, but it is also overcast. So I would struggle to tell between Generation 3 and 4 here.
right. So I think one of the ways is just you get an eye for it as you play a bit more, as you mentioned. So you do see that vibrancy a bit more and you'll notice it. And then maybe in stuff like Europe or something like that, you will see like mainly a blue car. You'll see a little bit of the antenna on the back. Um, and whereas in Generation 3, you kind of will just see this blur and then like an antenna sticking out of the back, I guess. So you'll see a little bit of the car most of the time, at least in Generation 4 camera, whether that be on the front of the car or on the back with the where the antenna would be. So like
Okay.
in Americas, you would see the front as well in most cases with the
Okay.
car in
Perfect.
Generation
Right.
4.
I'll
Yep.
send in my guess. I'll keep it where I guess. So I'm going to get a very low score here, and we'll see. And yeah, pretty spot on. So it ends up being in New Brunswick, but very, very close to where you guessed. Awesome.
Yeah.
Right, let's move on to
Awesome.
the next one. 247. It's always a positive start. Right. So we have. Okay, this is going to be a great question. I believe what I'm looking at here is small cam, but I would love to confirm that in a bit and identify how exactly I do. But I think it's like this, someone said like a skull shaped pattern, but I think that's small cam. And I don't know, I would guess looking at this off the bat, obviously sun in the south, northern hemisphere, this is probably one of the European countries that has got small cam. 2025 copyright. I mean, this could be Balkan, it could be like a Bosnia, I suppose, with it being so mountainous. Could be, I think Italy's another country that has quite a lot of small cam. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look especially Mediterranean, but also doesn't look, again, particularly cold by climate. I would just say with such massive mountains, I think I would send over towards Bosnia. We've got mountains to our southwest. So I would plonk a guess pretty much over the word Herzegovina if you were to zoom out. That would be roughly what I would go here. And it would be one because we're in Europe that I'm not too stressed at in a duel if we are indeed in Europe. So Dai, take us away.
Yeah, no, I love the explanation from you. You kind of hit on all of the points that I would have probably hit on here. With big mountains, we do have the small cam, as you mentioned, good identification there. I don't really think the copyright matters too much with small cam stuff because it's just going to be 25 mostly. So that doesn't really help you differentiate between the countries. But yeah, with these big mountains, it does look quite alpine, I'd say. So that Italy, maybe Bosnia area could typically work on this one. I might say that the mountains could be a bit too big for Bosnia. Potentially, like it maybe looks more part of that like the Alpine mountain range, like maybe in Italy or Austria potentially. I do think the pavement maybe is a bit strange for Italy or Austria. So I didn't mind Bosnia in that sense. But yeah, I think going off of the mountains, I think I would probably send more in that Alpine range, maybe in Austria or just northern Italy. But yeah, I don't mind the Bosnia shout at all. This could certainly be Bosnia as well.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, I like that. I'm glad I was able to identify small cam. I think at first, when it first got introduced, I was like, that looks like a truck. Because you see that big blur and you just automatically think that. So I think it's important to be able to identify that. In terms of like lists of countries, are you just using Plonkit for working out, like knowing which countries have small cam? Is it discussion with pros? Like, how do you get that information?
It's just something that you kind of pick up and like sometimes I'm like, oh, that country has small cam. I didn't know that, and then I'll make a mental note of that. And maybe next time I get it, I'll throw it into the list of considerations.
Perfect. All right, cool. I'll send it in Bosnia, and we're looking at that sort of region, maybe a little bit further towards Austria, Italy. And check you out, Dai. This is why we have you on board. So it is exactly what you said, right on the border of Italy and Austria. One of those 4,000 in a duel I'd be relatively okay with.
Yeah.
Awesome. Right, on to round 3 then. Okay, this is a fun one. So I guess straight away looks like the Americas to me. And we do have these blue water tanks on all over the place. You know when you read metas on Plonket and you think that's not going to be something which actually comes up as often as it does. But blue water tanks do. Not to say this is definitely Brazil, although we do have a Brazilian pole to our west there. So, Brazil. Blue water tanks, Brazilian pole. It says Rua on the sign as well, you can see there. So we've got at least 3 tells for Brazil. We do have a satellite dish. Now, I have been told repeatedly, look at the satellite dishes, they'll help you, and they never help me. The amount of times I've sent like really close to the equator in Brazil because it's been pointing up and it's in like southern Brazil. So but if it were to be true, that isn't pointing particularly upwards. So maybe slightly further from the equator. It does look quite dry in general. The soil is quite red, although it's red across the entirety of Brazil. This is one of those where I would do a very scared kind of Minas Gerais, Sao Paulo plonk, where I'm kind of in and around where a lot of the coverage is. I think Sao Paulo in particular does have a lot of red soil. We do have a slight mountain northeast of us. Not a mountain, maybe like a big hill, but I wouldn't have the talent or ability to line that up on the map. So yeah, I think where I've plonked is just kind of in between Minas Gerais and Sao Paulo. But I would love some feedback here. Brazil's one of those countries where it's bigger than some continents, so it's really useful to be able to region guess.
Absolutely. Once again, I think you kind of had the logic right there. We identified the blue water tanks. We have the ladder pole there. We got Rua on the sign, so all signs for Brazil speaking Portuguese. And these big mountains as well. So I think you also kind of nailed the region guess. That's about where I would have went as well. Maybe something in Minas Gerais. Maybe a bit more likely here, I think, with like kind of these rolling hills that we got. If you pan around, you can kind of just see how we have hills in the back of hills, I guess, with the landscape. So stuff like that, I definitely associate with like Minas Gerais, Rio, maybe Espirito Santo, although you would get some maybe slightly bigger hills on that border area. And then kind of one tip that I would use for like Sao Paulo versus Minas, if you're ever stuck between that. Sao Paulo does typically like to use more rounded poles, so you won't get as many like ladder poles as you get here, especially in urban areas. So like many cities will use round poles. And also use wooden poles sometimes in more rural areas. Whereas Minas Gerais will typically stick to the ladder pole, and you'll get rounded poles mainly in urban areas as well. But Sao Paulo typically rounded poles, and then Minas Gerais will use these. But yeah, I mean, you had the region guess spot on. I think hopefully Brazil, notoriously hard country to region guess, especially urban like this. So hopefully, the click is good, and we'll find out together.
Right, cool. I'll send it in. Okay, very nice. Yeah, it was actually into Goiás there. I don't know where the boundary starts and ends, but yeah, it looks like it's close there. But as you say, slightly further away, slightly north of Sao Paulo. But again, about 4K on a Brazil round, I'd be relatively happy with a master level.
Yeah,
awesome.
Definitely.
Very nice. Okay, next round. I mean, thank goodness for the police car, because I wouldn't have had an absolute Scooby here. Okay, so hopefully this is the Nigerian police follow car that you get. I think Dai can tell us in a second, but I think for a lot of Nigeria, but not all of Nigeria, you also do have this big blur, which I guess would be a truck. But yeah, without that, it probably would have been the 20th or 25th country I probably would have gone through. Now, with this kind of environment, it might be one of those where the map lies to me, but it looks obviously a little bit dry, so I'd probably go towards the north. And I've not really seen coverage like this before. It doesn't look flat per se, but also can't see any huge notable kind of mountains. So I would probably go... I've just said near where it says kind of Gombe on the map. I've kind of gone up in that kind of northeast-ish area of Nigeria. So Dai, anything to point out here?
Yeah, Ross, actually, first question for you. Can you identify the generation of camera we're using? So Nigeria will use generation 3 versus generation 4 sometimes, and that could help you guess. So can you tell what generation this could be?
I would hope this is Gen 3 by my eye. It looks a little bit more dull and not as vibrant.
Yeah, you'd be correct. I mean, good identification there. So, I mean, we're learning on the spot as well with the generations. But yeah, as you mentioned, that police follow car, biggest hint for Nigeria, of course, especially a no move. And kind of that dry landscape, as you mentioned, would push you a bit further north. I'm not seeing too many coconut palms here. I think you would get coconut palms more towards that southern half of the country, like south of Abuja, up to that the Niger River line, I'd say. And then north of that, it does get a lot more dry, a lot more like sandy kind of soil like this. So I don't mind the region, guys. I think this should at least net you like a 4.4, maybe, at the very least, in terms of your score. So, yeah.
Awesome. Let's go for it. Guess. It was Bayabuja.
Yeah.
4K. That was a. So is this maybe, was it a national park? Is it just a dry road here? Because I've never seen coverage look like that in Nigeria.
Yeah, I think like Abuja is one of those places where you just get a huge pocket of coverage just because it is such a populated city and there's a lot of random suburbs around it. But it was kind of weird in the fact that Abuja will typically have a lot of like rocky outcroppings in terms of hills there, and we kind of couldn't see too much there. So
Hmm.
I mean, I guess it does make sense that it's east of Abuja here, where it's a bit flatter.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just some weird off-road coverage. I think they just randomly decided to cover this road.
Awesome. Cool. Right. On to round number 5. And I would say we are in probably Brazil. So I think, hopefully I'm identifying that correct. I hope that's the stubby antenna, and I believe you can get that in Brazil, Ecuador, Colombia, and Mexico. And
Yep.
I think they possibly do look like ladder poles, although I can only see the very top of it. But the very top of the one towards the north does look like it's got a ladder indentation. So I would probably be sending Brazil here, and this is a kind of a horror one to try and region guess. The only stuff that I know with the poles is that if they have no supports, you're pushing towards the northeast, but we can see supports here, so that's the only place I would like rule out, although maybe incorrectly so. I don't know, it certainly feels pretty green. This is one where I don't know why I would send slightly further north, but not for any good real reason, other than that I could this could be like a Colombia in my mind if I didn't have the pole. So I don't know, I'd probably go like Tocantins. Could be a terrible region, but that's roughly where I'd be plonking in a duel.
I mean, I don't hate that at all. I think you correctly identified the ladder pole. The antenna is in those 4 countries, as you mentioned, in Gen 3. So you can kind of narrow it down to those 4 countries first, and then using the poll, you can narrow it down to Brazil, as you mentioned. Yeah, this one extremely hard. We can't really see too much. We're just in the middle of a forest on a dirt road here. So I could see something reasonable as Tocantins. I could see something as maybe we're more in the Amazon region, maybe something like Amapa, maybe something like northeastern Para or something like that. But as you mentioned, with the supports, typically not going northeast here is usually a good rule of thumb. So I think, on this location, I think in a duel, as long as you plonk somewhat where the supports make sense, I think you should be all right moving forward. Yeah.
Okay, right, we'll see. This is the sort of thing that Radu's going to 5k.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Here's a question for you before I guess. Like, obviously you're one of the best players in the world based on your rating, longevity. You've crossed the 2,000 rating threshold, which is pretty incredible. How far off do you feel from like the Radus and Blinkies? Because I watched the latest casting you was doing for the World League, and there was those back-to-back rounds where Radu 5k'd France and then got about 5 kilometers away in Bangladesh on no move. And it's just, how far do you feel like the gap is? Because when I watch you, you're in, like when you watch Radu, it's like, how do you do that? I watch you and I'm like, how does he do that? So the gap's obviously quite close, but how far do you feel like it is?
I think it's pretty significant. It's like, I don't know. It's like that. It's like that one quote by Brian Scalabrine. I guess I don't know if you follow NBA basketball at all, but he basically said he was like a bench warmer on on an NBA team essentially, and he said, "I'm closer to Michael Jordan than you are to me," or something like that. And like I feel like I'm somewhat close to Radu, but he is just like on another level. He's like Messi Ronaldo kind of situation. Him and Blinky, I guess, as I would put them up there. But it's just like they are incredible, and I feel like the gap is a bit larger than uh, most people would envision it to be, I guess, because they just know everything, man. you know?
Like when they're playing badly, it's better than most people's good.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
obviously they have the ability to 5k or back to back to that.
Exactly.
And, yeah, like you very rarely. I can't remember the last time I saw a Radu blunder. A blunder for him is like the wrong state rather than kind of
Yeah.
constant.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
You rarely see him making big mistakes, and I think that's the key. Yeah.
I've sent in Tocantins, and it is not too bad. It was actually near Manaus.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Definitely makes sense.
Probably something worth doing for me is learning that I never guess towards the Amazon because I know the coverage is so sparse, and I know that I could be clicking somewhere where there's no coverage within 400 kilometers of where I've clicked. So it's probably worth at some point just learning the roads and regions within the Amazon area that you could get.
Yep. It's a bit hard to distinguish those roads if unless you do a lot of practice, I'd say. So.
Absolutely. Cool. Right, let's jump into another game. So guys, we're going to jump into a second game. As I said, if you do want to see more in-depth content, do check out Daio's channel. He's got a great series going. Road to number 1. We're Road to Champion. He's Road to the best in the world. But also he's creating some great content with Finbar, who you probably know. And I really enjoy the dynamic between the two of you. It's fantastic. So yeah, definitely check out that. So let's go into another game on a Pro World and see if we can make some slightly better guesses. So this is either very sunny or it's... Gem 4. We're going to discuss that in a second, but this looked more vibrant. So if this is Gem 4, then that's at least useful. If it's not, then we'll discuss. We have... Interesting. What looked like to me at first an Australian bollard, but I'm now thinking that's probably a Turkish bollard, especially with the chevrons. The sun is in the south, so this probably is Turkey, and all the signs are on the right. So... I think you can see that in Romania, that bollard, but I don't know that the environment fits. And I also don't think they're particularly common in Romania bollards. So I'm going to say this is Turkey. Now, Turkey, I think, is often about lining up mountains, knowing the coverage in certain regions. This probably does feel further east and maybe further north, but that would just be a guess. I'll be very interested in a second dive. You can tell me, if you know, of course, what trees these are to our kind of southwest west. That they're interesting, and then we've got some different trees towards our north, but I guess I would just be sending maybe fairly central in Turkey. We can try and line up a road. I'd go for like a fairly northern road. I have gone... How far east do I want to go? I've gone near Malatya, which is just kind of very central Turkey, maybe just favoring towards the east. Is this Turkey?
Right. It is Turkey. You got it right with the bollards. Yeah, with the reflector like kind of queued up for right-hand drive where we can see the red thing. Yeah, you got that, and not Australia as you mentioned, which is good. And then yes, I guess small cam is like generation 4.5 because this is small cam. We do have like a massive blur here, but you did correctly identify that as not generation 3, which is good. Because that'll help you maybe typically rule out some countries as well. And with the small cam, it can help you narrow it down even further. But you correctly identified Turkey already. Difficult round here. I typically, in Turkey, I think a good clue, we can't really see too much on this round, but a good clue is kind of looking at the roofs of houses. So you'll typically get more metal roofs, like sheet metal roofs, in like the eastern part of Turkey, so like east of the label and such is the general rule of thumb. And then you'll typically get more like tiled roof houses on the western portion. We can see maybe one metal roof to the southwest here, and the water tank. And then like, I can't tell to the south if that like reddish brown roof is metal or not. It's really hard to tell from here. But I think going off of the metal roofs, I think hedging a bit more eastern was actually the good play. In terms of the landscape, it's a little bit generic, I'd say. Like you kind of get just these auburn grass, pines, and such everywhere. So I don't mind the hedge. I don't really have too much to offer in terms of a region guess here. Like I'm usually quite decent at Turkey because I am friends with GeoRaptor, who's like one of the best Turkey players in the world, but this one is a little bit confusing to me. I'm getting multiple vibes here with the architecture.
Maybe this is one to send to the GeoRaptor and see if he could get a better guess. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad then, because like I say, I think sometimes there's like a really distinctive huge mountain range, or there is like multiple buildings we can look at. But I'll send in where I've gone. So just east of the Turkey label,
Yep.
and it's quite far west. So
Yeah.
this was USEC. So probably that building we could see to our south probably was kind of more kind of a western building. But if we're looking at the positives, the latitude was spot on. which
Yeah.
is
I
nice to
mean,
see.
I'm trying to zoom down the road so I can take a look at this building here, but
Yeah.
I mean, typically I was getting different vibes because like I feel like these pine trees, I feel like a significant amount of these pine trees you'll probably get maybe a bit more western in the country. Even though it is a dry landscape, it is a tiled roof, which is a little bit unfortunate that we could only see the metal one. But yeah, yeah, I think that's just a tough one, and you'll have to chalk it up to that. But correctly identifying the country is always good, and that's always a good start, especially being consistent in master. I feel like getting the country every time is a good skill to have.
I think Turkey seems to be a country that so many people miss. Maybe less so there with the
Yeah.
bollard, but I see very rarely people will send. They'll send Romania or Spain, or depending on the kind of vegetation. The big grey truck in Turkey seems to throw everyone. I don't think anyone master
Yeah.
level seems to know about the truck, so that's
Yep.
always a useful one. Cool. Right, moving on to the next round, and we've got one which doesn't look too far from home, although it probably is. We've got wheelie bins, so I'd always zoom in on the text. Den siden ut mot. There's a little like the circle on the A. Which Nordic country is that? European countries for me are more difficult than like the Indian languages and stuff. I don't know why. It should be an easier one for me, but discerning the difference. But I think that's one of the Nordic countries. What I would normally do is I just zoom in on the map and try and identify. But I think it's Norwegian. Would that fit with the landscape? We do have a big bit of water to our north, east, southeast. That's interesting. So potentially could be near like Trondheim. I could see. Is this possible? It doesn't feel super northern to me. Maybe it's just the vegetation we can see in front of us, but nothing at this round feels hugely northern. Although it does feel quiet. Doesn't feel particularly built up. Doesn't feel like we're in a huge city or in around there. So let me try and line up the water a bit better. So it's pretty much all around us. We could be on the tip of. It doesn't super look like the fjords though you get around Bergen. I don't know why, but it just like from playing those rounds, it doesn't feel like that. So maybe we are further. I would probably send just north of Trondheim in this little area here where we've got lots of lakes, maybe like Levanger or something like that, and just hope that it's in and around there. If it is Norway, it could be one of the other Nordic countries.
No, it is. I mean, you've correctly identified the country again, so very nice there. I think on the wheelie bin, where we have Veien, or however you pronounce it there, that would be a suffix for like street or road, I guess, in Norwegian. So you'll see that on a lot of street signs as well. So that should help you identify the country, because if I'm hopefully correct on that, Veien should be the suffix for only Norway in the Nordics. So that would help you identify the country. And yeah, we do have some pretty big mountains across the way. I'm thinking maybe we could be on some island, maybe off the coast here, and we're looking at the fjords like to the east, and that's why we're kind of seeing big mountains there. Um, and I would say, yeah, maybe a bit more south here, as you mentioned, because it doesn't feel particularly north. Like we do have a lot of vegetation, like pretty big pine trees, especially to the north of us. Um, I think with the islands, I don't mind the Trondheim guess. I was also thinking about that Stavanger area because I know there's a lot of islands around there as well. I'm not sure if how big the mountains get down there. It looks like we do have some elevation maybe on the map. Um, but it could be like any maybe island off the coast, the west southern coast of Norway. So I think Trondheim is a pretty reasonable guess, honestly.
Awesome, perfect. Right, let's sap it in, and yeah, so maybe expecting it to be very far south. So yeah, Die, that was about as good as a guess could be, right next to Stavanger. So yeah, I don't know why. So I do this thing where I say something in a video or I'll think of something, and I thought to myself, this doesn't feel very far north, and then I just end up scanning up the map and then sending. I mean, not that far north, but quite far north. I'll do that sometimes in a video. I'll go, we're driving on the left, and then I'll completely disregard that and do something else. So yeah, reminding myself of my initial gut vibe with a round, I think, is quite useful.
Yep, yep. I think always trust in your gut because more often than not, your gut will just be like pretty darn correct in most cases. So yeah.
Perfect. Right, we've got the next round then, and immediately this is very interesting. So we are driving on the right-hand side. We've got a very tropical looking climate. We have very interesting road lines. I don't know what these hashed yellow are, but okay, so the van in front of us has a yellow plate. The truck behind us looks almost like the Americas. So my initial vibe was like maybe Ecuador, Colombia, Philippines. But I would say, I don't actually know what the meta is for the white and red striped post, which we can discuss, I suppose, in a second. But normally that many chevrons, I would go Ecuador. But I am wondering if that yellow plate would send me Colombia. But the car behind doesn't have a yellow plate, which is fun. Also, I do wonder if these are like almost like bollard poles, which would make me think Ecuador again, because they love bollards. I suppose I would expect to see a Colombian cross, which I don't see. I'm also wondering, that's a triangle sign to our southwest. I would expect to see a diamond sign if that was Colombia. I have no idea where we are, that looks Asian. That H2, that looks like a Vietnamese, Cambodian, but Vietnam? Could be northern Vietnam? Suppose it's feasible. God, I thought this was the Americas, but I quite like really northern Vietnam, even north of Hanoi, kind of in the mountains. Maybe this is why I don't recognize it, because I'm not very good at Vietnam. Okay, my final guess would be I've gone very far north in Vietnam, above Hanoi. Could be the wrong continent. We'll see.
Okay, I mean, you walked us through your thoughts there, and I think it was perfect, honestly, because you initially thought it was the Americas, which I don't hate something like Ecuador, especially because Ecuador does use a lot of double guardrails like we're seeing on the side here. But you correctly identified that that's a triangle sign and not a diamond sign. So that would push you away from the Americas and maybe more towards Asia, especially with that road marker, as you mentioned, which you will get a lot in stuff like Cambodia, Vietnam, and Thailand. And we're driving on the right. So that rules out Thailand, because Thailand, of course, drives on the left. And then what generation is this? I have to ask.
That's difficult. I feel like I need the sky to work it out. I would say this is Gen 4, though. It looks very bright green.
It is. It is Gen 4. So that would rule out Cambodia, because Cambodia doesn't have Gen 4. So that would leave you with that Vietnam, as you mentioned, because a lot of the Southeast Asian countries do drive on the left, besides like Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, and the Philippines, as you mentioned. But yeah, the striped poles as well, very good meta for Vietnam. You'll typically get these red and white striped signposts, like on almost all signposts in Vietnam, especially on high elevation roads like this. So just so they're visible to the drivers in case it's like a really foggy day like today. But yeah, the yellow plate on the bus is interesting. I don't know if I've ever seen that. Maybe they use that on like specifically bus or vans that are used for transport potentially, but nailed everything spot on. I can't be mad at it. It was good thinking from you.
Thank you. Thank God I saw the tiny little like bollard to the northeast. It just stuck out, and I was like, that looks like the one we get in Vietnam. And then, okay, perfect. It's one of those where you've got like 8 conflicting things in your brain, and you're not sure which one to follow.
Yep.
Okay, cool. I'll send that guess in then. Unfortunately, a completely wrong region.
Oh,
of Vietnam. It was down quite far south.
Yeah, I mean that's a bit hard to get. I think we don't have any polls here that would help you distinguish from north to south either. So I don't really know how many people are pulling this. I think most pros as well, like even Blinky or Radu, would struggle with that one. So can't be too mad at it.
Okay, so what I'm taking from this is I'm basically Radu. Cool, right, let's move on to the next round. Okay, this is going to be a fantastic one to have Dai on board for, because I believe we're in North America here. Wooden poles, flat-ish landscape, vegetation works out, double yellow line. I am 90% sure that sign probably tells us the region with the kind of red, so that's an octagon. Maybe the letterbox, mailbox outside would give us some indication as well. So, immediate thought is fairly flat, but not very flat. So I would rule out the Great Plains, although I'm sure there are some pockets where you could see some slight rolling hills. Just due to that nature of kind of how it looks in terms of flatness, I would lean east, but could quite easily be west. And then it's the trees. So a little bit of background. Over the last week, I've been trying to learn the difference between the vegetation in the US, and I still cannot identify the trees very well. But I don't know why. I would kind of go mid-east US, kind of towards, I think it's the Appalachians, that kind of region.
Okay.
I will put a guess in. I would probably be too scared to go too far east. I'd probably end up putting it somewhere around like West Virginia-ish. I'll leave it there.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I think the logic was good. We don't have anything to talk about getting the U.S. at least, and yeah, with the double yellow lines and stuff like that, we should be in the United States. Aside from that, I think we do have a house like through the trees, maybe to the east, which kind of looks like it's made out of like maybe red brick there, and that's typically found like more in the southern half of the country, I'd say, specifically the southeast of the country. Um, Not always the case, but usually you do get a lot of those, red brick buildings down there. Um, Vibe wise, I would usually try to look for maybe reflectors as well on the road because do you know about southern reflectors like cat
No.
eyes? I don't know what you guys call that
Yeah,
in the
called cat
UK.
eyes, but I don't know the meta for that. So more of a
Yeah,
southern
okay.
thing.
Yeah, so more of a southern thing when you typically get those yellow bumps. It's very hard to describe, but you could probably find it on Plunket as well. Um, Whereas, like, you'll get that along the southern belt here, like Arkansas, all the way up to South Carolina, North Carolina, I think, on that southern part. I don't quite know if you get it in Tennessee. Somebody would have to check me on that. But yeah, I'm not seeing any of those. So, I mean, it's not always a rule in which you see it. You can rule those out, and you could, but I would typically go a bit more south, I think, with this house, and I think maybe like something like Tennessee, Alabama, that border could work. Think it looks more like southern pines to me. And I'm not the biggest plant guy, so I wouldn't be able to tell you the exact species that we're looking at.
Yeah.
But I think the trees feel a bit more southern to me, like this open grassland as well, and these shorter looking trees. I think maybe if we were more north, typically we'd get a bit taller of trees, like tree forests. Maybe if we were in like West Virginia, Pennsylvania area. But yeah, I mean, you correctly identified the eastern U.S., I'd say, on this round.
Does the sign to the north mean anything? Is that just a standard US sign?
No, just a standard U.S. sign is telling you that there's a stop at the intersection up there, pretty much. I think
Is
you
that in
get it.
Canada?
This particular sign, I'm actually not sure. Probably not. I don't think I've ever seen it. Um, so I think, yeah, that would help you distinguish between Canada. I'd have to look up all the road signs in both of
Yeah.
the two countries, but yeah, I mean, come to think of it, I've probably never seen that in Canada, so that would be a good hint. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Right, we'll send it then. So we're thinking probably right area of the US, just probably a little bit further south.
Yeah.
And you're pretty spot on. It was very far south. It was just in Georgia on the Georgia-Alabama border. But
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So they were probably southern pines. Good. Yeah, I tell you what, the vegetation in the US. I know how helpful it must be once you can just, and it's probably more just gut instinct vibing it rather than actually saying like that tree is that. Like I
Yeah.
can tell within certain countries where it's more north or south just from the feeling. So it's probably just playing enough US rounds, I suppose.
Yeah, I think someone like Radu or Blinky could look at the trees and be like, "Oh, that's, this species of pine, and that automatically means we're not in Michigan, we're in Alabama or something like that." But, in me, you kind of just get a feel for the pines a little bit more. I was also looking for red soil in this round because, you'll typically get a lot of red soil around that southern belt area, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and that stuff, but couldn't really spot anything that was too visible. But it just kind of vibed to me a bit further south there. So yeah.
Okay, perfect. Cool. Right, into round 5 of this second game. I feel like my initial vibe was Asian here. I don't
Okay.
even know what this crop is to the left, but we'll discern that in a second. But it looked Asian. I think that is probably a tie pole northwest. Probably looks like a tie pole southeast as well. So, or at least it's a hole with poles in that looks like a tie pole. I know there are different variations you can get in some countries, but yeah, I would probably lean. I probably would lean Thailand here. So my general vibe with Thailand, and we'll correct these if I'm wrong, guys, but it's normally, I would go East Thailand if I see it quite red soil. I would go South Thailand if I see a lot of palms. Doesn't feel particularly red, can't see any obvious palms, or at least not a lot of them. So I would probably just go absolute middle plonk. In the middle of Thailand, which, in all fairness, I don't think is ever a bad idea in Thailand. Can I confirm this is Thailand? Is there any chance this is somewhere else? I just think with those polls that I can see, obviously I'm not super close to one, but I think I would have to go Thailand. So in terms of generation, shall I make a guess?
Yeah, go for it.
This would look Gen 4 to me. The sky looks quite bright and vibrant. So not that I know whether there is Gen 3 or Gen 4, but I'll just go in the middle of Thailand.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it is Gen 4, so I mean, you haven't gotten a generation question wrong yet since we brought it up. So very nice job. Yeah, basically. All right, so yeah, we got the tie poll. Another good thing that'll help you identify if you're not too sure is that lamp. So it's like kind of a 60-degree lamp, I'd say, like hanging off the side there. And it's just like completely straight. So that's super common in Thailand. I think you'll see it on most of these kind of style polls. And I think the crop growing here to the southwest, someone could correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like sugarcane. I think like the early makings of sugarcane. And yeah, that would be quite common in Thailand as well. So those would all push you towards Thailand. I wish we could see maybe a steering wheel on the car there. That would indicate that we are left-hand drive, but kind of hard to see because this car looks completely smashed.
Yeah.
But yeah, the pines in the distance to the south there, maybe where the red roof, you can see a red roof peeking through behind the banana plants. Those kind of feel a bit more coastal to me, maybe, or something on some sort of water source, because it's quite high. I think I would probably just, honestly, just plonk Bangkok here, because we don't have coconut palms, but it does feel somewhat coastal in a way. So, yeah, I mean, the middle click also works, I think, because we don't have too red soil, so I probably wouldn't have strayed a bit further east either. So, I'm with you there.
Awesome. Cool. Perfect. Yeah, just on the outskirts of Bangkok there. Awesome. Yeah, really good guess. 4.2k, but yeah. So it's interesting. I don't know why pines. I just think north immediately. Pine, I just think north. But you can obviously get pines closer to water source.
Yeah, especially in Thailand. I think if you look at the peninsula a little bit, you will see like a ton of really tall coastal pines there. Don't know the exact species, but just something that you kind of pick up as you keep playing. But yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. So 17k game, slightly stronger there. You got time for one more? We'll go a little bit quicker.
Yeah. Let's go one more.
Right, we're going to jump into one more game here because I am learning so much selfishly, but hopefully you guys are as well. So we have English, signs on the right. We've got a double yellow. There are some strange, in the Americas, it's like you think the yellow is always going to be in the center. I remember the first time I was on a divided highway and the center line was technically white in my section, but the center line was yellow because it was a divided highway. That threw me. But in the distance, it says 35. I'd assume that it wouldn't be. Where are we? We do have a cat eye in the middle of the road, but I don't know if that's. What? Is this the US? There are some US rounds that I just can't wrap my head around it being the US. Like, this feels like this should be like a South America almost to me, but that feels like a speed limit sign north. We've got some like bollards on the side attached to the guardrails, which I'm 90% sure will probably give us a region. We do have cat eyes in the center. Now, I don't want to just go off that, but when I don't have much else to go for, maybe I will go a little bit further south as a result. We've got some autumnal coverage. I don't know if that leans us anywhere. I am going to go... I'll maybe go Arkansas, like leaning further south.
Okay.
I don't see anything that leans me too far north. I hope this is the US, but we've got English writing. I think a speed limit sign. And we have cat eyes. Might just be one of those where it's not a truthful one. It's probably going to be that case, but I will send there.
Okay. I might have misled you with the cat eye comment. So there's like two variants of cat eyes essentially. Okay. So there's the southern ones that I was looking for in the last one. And then there's the northern, like, I think these are so you can run a snow plow along this road or something like that. It's like a snow plowable cat eye that they use. So that's typically found like in the northeastern part of the country. So it runs from like Illinois to Pennsylvania all the way down to North Carolina and Tennessee. So it kind of makes a square. If you see it on your map there. So you get it in those states. So yeah, that would be a good hint for that area with this particular type of reflector. The other one is like a more raised pavement marker. that's a bit more rectangular, whereas this one is a bit more flat, I guess.
If I can
So
find
that's
them on
kind of
Plonket, I'll flash them on screen so
yeah,
that you
yeah,
can see.
yeah. That would be great. That would be great. Okay, and then so we're typically probably going to think that that square area, and then if I was guessing between them, we do have bollards on our guardrail, which is quite common in Pennsylvania, I'd say. Somebody can feel free to correct me on that one, but it definitely feels maybe a bit more northern. I think in West Virginia, we would typically get a bit thicker road lines than that. That's a good meta for West Virginia. So I'm ruling that out. And it seems like Virginia would be kind of weird besides Western Virginia here. I'm just thinking something maybe around Pittsburgh, I think, with kind of these rolling hills. You typically do get a bunch of rolling hills around there. And I think with the bollards on the guardrail, it could make some sense to me. Although I'm not super confident about that, besides getting the region with the cat eyes in the middle of the road. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Right, I'll send my guess.
Yep.
It was bloody hell. I mean, you'd be proud of that in a duel. That was just north of Pittsburgh. Perfect. Excellent stuff. Okay, right. I will go away myself, learn the two cat eyes, and I'll try to remember to flash them on screen if I can find a picture. But that will be,
Yeah.
I think that's super useful. So, am I right then in saying if you're getting cat eyes, it shouldn't be Western US then? If you're saying
Well,
the two
okay.
different types, or is there another third type?
No. So the southern reflectors that I did mention, I only said it was like in the southern part because you correctly identified that it's the eastern half on that previous round. You can get it in the states that are border Mexico, so Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California, and then you also get it in Oregon and Washington. But like nothing within the plain states, maybe in the middle, and then like Nevada, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming won't have those southern reflectors as well. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, very useful. It's the sort of thing you wouldn't even think to look at in the road.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we have crap cam. Now I've been spending some time learning India, the poles and the languages, and of course we don't have, poles
neither.
or languages, which is great. I don't know if the Google cars are super irrelevant or if it's like if you get this red one then it's in a particular place, but I don't know. This is one of those where I wouldn't care to commit too far north or south, just because I wouldn't be super sure. I don't see any palm trees, I don't think. I can't see any mountains because there's lots of trees around us. I would probably say, it does maybe feel, I don't know, like Maharashtra, between Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh, I'd probably go. But that's just because it's more of a scared, I don't know whether we're north or south. I suppose there's always a chance it's Nepal, but I don't think so, just maybe based on the car and also the vegetation and stuff. But yeah, kind of, again, a bit of a middle plonk India.
Yeah, all right. I don't hate it at all. I think so. We have this rectangular car, which is, I think, usually silver, but you can get the red variant of this car. Yeah, which is found like in Maharashtra, and then you get it in like Gujarat, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, and then the northern states there. I don't think it strays into Bihar, Jharkhand, West Bengal. And it doesn't have it. It doesn't exist in Madhya as well, so it wouldn't be in Madhya. But it's typically the most of the northern states with this box car. Hopefully, the rule holds true for the red car variant as well, because this one's a bit more rare. You'll typically get a silver one. But where did you say you plunked? You plunked like on.
I think I just inside Maharashtra, north towards Madhya Pradesh.
Okay, yeah, I don't hate that. I think to the north or like down east, down the road, like on the side, we can see some milkweed there, which is typically like right off the side of the road. Those small little bush. I guess they're not really bushes, but those small little weed-looking things growing off the side of the road.
Yeah.
Those are typically found in more deserty areas in India, which I've seen a lot in Rajasthan. I've seen a good amount like on bordering states as well surrounding that. So although it is very like forested and stuff, you can get this a bit more in eastern Rajasthan, I guess, or something near Uttar Pradesh. So I probably would have strayed a bit more up there, just because in Maharashtra I feel like we would get maybe darker soil as well. So like more brown soil, a bit more common in Maharashtra. But India as well, we don't have language, we don't have polls. It's really hard to region guess. So I could definitely see a Maharashtra here as well. But yeah, getting the northern part is good. Yeah.
Cool. We'll send in. And it was, is that technically Maharashtra? I don't know.
It's just in the Gujarat border, but
Just in the Gujarat border.
yeah.
Okay, awesome.
I mean, you got it spot on. Good stuff. There.
Perfect. I mean, it was just a fearful middle plonk, but I tell you what, the more confident I am sending north and south, the more I wish I'd just sent in the middle of most countries half the time.
Yeah.
Right, cool. Round number 3, we have. I'm trying to work out that was a flag to the south. If it is, I can't really make it out. Oh, so signs on the left. Is this just India again? Small cam India? I just always rule out India when it's not crap cam, but I think you can get small cam India quite commonly now. I think that is a tuk-tuk south of us, so we probably are in at least an Asian left-hand drive. I guess the only other possibility would be maybe a Thailand, Bangladesh, I suppose. Could be Bangladesh, but I don't know about small cam. I'm going to stick with the India idea, but again, I don't see a notable pole or language to help me here. If it is, we have. Well, there is sort of a kind of thinker pole to the northwest. Maybe I do send up towards West Bengal way. I see some palms as well. I think there are various palms throughout India, but maybe I would normally go along the east coast a little bit more. Maybe Odisha. I'm going to go Odisha for no good reason. Other than I'm hoping this is India and I see some palms.
Okay. I don't know if I could be much help here myself. This is quite a difficult round, I'd say. But yeah, it is India. It is India. We are driving on the left. We do have the small cam, as you mentioned. I think good job correctly identifying that. I feel like in Thailand you would get a yellow center line, so you can rule it out with that. And this one's white, so the difference there. And we do have that tuk-tuk, as you mentioned. I'm trying to look for polls as well, but I hardly see anything myself, or like nothing that I can particularly look at.
I wonder if the one to the southeast was some kind of. I know in West Bengal you get kind of like the rectangle forming, but I think it's quite like that. But
Yeah,
I
I think
all the polls the other day, but it's difficult.
yeah, I think those are typically metal. Maybe actually, I can't tell if that's metal or not. So you could be onto something. I would just expect West Bengal to be maybe a bit more flat than this. In most cases, like we wouldn't even get like even small rolling hills like this. I think. I mean, with the palms, yeah, probably going coastal, maybe more East Coast as well. I would be perplexed with this round just as much as you, I think. Like, I was going to say Tamil Nadu, but your guess could be equally as good there, so I don't know. I can't be much help on this round, guys. I apologize. It's just, we can't really see too much infrastructure, and it's kind of just a vibe guess in a way. Maybe there's a plant here that somebody in the comments could tell us about, but yeah.
Cool. Right, I'll send it.
Yep.
God, I would never have guessed there. I think it's Maharashtra. Just very.
Okay. All right. Well.
Yeah, difficult round. Okay, India. Do you know what makes me feel so much better watching World League when the pros struggle with an India round? I'm just like, thank goodness, even the best of the best can't region guess India sometimes.
It's very hard. It is very hard, especially when you don't get a poll, as you mentioned, or language. I mean, language would have been extremely helpful there because it would have told us, could have ruled out some states. But yeah.
Awesome. Right, round number 4. We've got a big truck blur. I think to our northwest, that's the Senegalese pole. Looks like the French pole, like the ladder. I guess, is there a way for me to confirm? I mean, the environment looks so much like Senegal as well. I would just try and find a random road, although I don't know that this would be a yellow road, so the likelihood of me like trying to line up I've tried to at least a little bit more die. Like, I'm like, if I'm going to guess, I should at least try and guess a road that it lines up.
Yeah.
But I've never got, obviously, the correct road when it's like an off-dirt road. But you know what? You give it a go. So I'll click on a random road that even that doesn't line up, but we'll just click around there. So I've just sort of centre plonked towards Dakar, but not too close, because I don't see anything particularly. In fact, should I send further into? There's literally nothing going on. Okay, I'm gonna click just above the word Senegal.
Yeah, I think most pros would struggle with Senegal, just getting the right road. In fact, because a lot of these truck countries, especially if the truck is blurred, a lot of people know like what's on the truck and how to guess based off of like smudges on the truck and stuff like that. But when it's completely blurred like this and we can't see anything and it's just completely deserty, I think it's pretty tough. I think the best you can do, like you said, is just line up a road. But yeah, French pole, as you mentioned. I don't think I have any other notes. I think
Awesome.
nailed it. So yeah, we can just send on this one.
Cool. I did send, and it was just northwest. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Such a small country. I think if you get the country, you're pretty happy.
It is, and the coverage is pretty limited because you won't typically get it in the middle. It'll just typically be mostly west or then south of the Gambia and then along the border with like Mauritania and stuff like that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, final round. And
Ooh.
I think we are possibly, I would guess we're just in US Canada again, where we've got we've got English signs on the right, got a very American looking truck. I cannot tell if that is coast to our east. Is that water? Is that a beach? Or is that just a large field? I also don't know what this crop is either. We've got a wooden pole. I would feel pretty good that this should hopefully be the US or Canada. And I guess I'm saying US or Canada because I kind of would guess that it would be up there. We don't have front plates, or we don't have knowledge of if there are front plates, which would really help if it were to be Canada. I've got nothing to go off here. This house is interesting. This house almost looks more southern to me. Like a Carolinas house. Not that I've never even been to the US, by the way. So I'm pretty useless. And it is to the east. Like, let's say that is the coast, and that is an east coast.
Yep.
Then we are probably on the east coast. And I don't mind a Carolina guess. That house, I'd say it was mainly from films. There are an obscene number of films set in North Carolina. And that, like the sort of house you should get there. I think I'll go, could be up to New Hampshire. Could be like New Hampshire, Maine if it's an east coast. Could be Nova Scotia. Let me have a look at the vegetation. It doesn't help that all I can see is crops. No, these trees don't look super northern to me. I am going to go North Carolina, Virginia on the coast somewhere. That's where I'm going for now.
All right. Are you sure, like, you're not a pro at this point? Like, are you sure you're not, like, secretly 1800 rating and you're, like,
Yeah,
just
this
like...
this is a prank video.
I mean, I think you just, like, So I think that is the coast there because we have, like, a guardrail, like, to the left of the truck there that, like, would signify, like, a dead end or something that you typically get at the end of, like, beach roads like this, where it's, like, signifies a turnaround or, yeah, obviously there's water there, so we don't want to go down there. But I think that is water. It's really hard to tell, as you mentioned. But, yeah, the building seems coastal, like something you would get maybe in the Outer Banks, North Carolina, as you mentioned, totally possible. Could see even up to Delaware as well. Because we kind of have these coastal looking pines that you would typically get along that east coast. So I think Virginia, North Carolina, Delaware, Maryland, something like that is definitely great there.
What is this crop just to the left and right of us? Maybe it's
I don't know what this is. I think it's just some kind of like reed because it looks like pretty swampy around here maybe. So it's probably just some marsh reed that's growing. It's just got really tall because nobody's maintaining it, I guess. But yeah.
Okay, awesome. Right, so I'll send my guess. I think I've gone northern North Carolina near a place called Kitty Hawk.
Yep.
We will send there and we'll see. Okay, yeah, you were spot on. It's right up in Delaware.
Yep.
But definitely East Coast. We were looking on the coast. We were on Big Stone Beach. But yeah, not bad at all. Again, that's the sort of thing in a Masters duel you're not too bad on.
Yeah, I mean,
the highest game.
Yeah, I think you'll definitely take the Kitty Hawk guess. I mean, just getting the East Coast in general, I think a lot of players in Gold or Master would even struggle to recognize that that's the East Coast, and the region guess was good as well. So, I mean, got to be proud of that. Yeah,
I'm very happy. Yeah, I mean, I can now identify Gen 3, Gen 4.
Yeah,
and we've got a few really nice US tips in there as well as some other countries. So,
yeah.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. That was really useful for me. I mean, selfishly, even if this wasn't content, I would have enjoyed that a lot. But if you do want to check out Daio's channel, as I said, linked in the title, linked in the description down below as well. I'm sure there'll be more collabs from us if you guys enjoy this video. Maybe there's something that I can do over on Daio's channel, or just more coaching on here. If you want to see this more regularly, just have to smash that like button and drop some comments. Daio, any last words?
No, thank you for having me on. Yeah, go check out my channel because we have, we're dropping like a lot of videos on there, daily vids. So yeah, thank you for having me on, Ross. Appreciate it. I had a lot of fun today, and hopefully you learned something as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Cheers, guys. See you later. Bye-bye.